Today is the last day in this garden, and it's definitely bittersweet. Alright guys, so I am doing a review of everything in the garden so far, / look back / I'm trying not to cry because it is my last day in this garden and it's really sad for me. I really love this garden, and I started this garden when Alan and I first moved in together, and we sold the house, right? If you didn't watch our next steps for Mini Urban Farm, we sold the house video. I will link it up somewhere below. But we sold the house and we are moving, which means that we cannot take this entire garden with us. We're taking some of our plants and potted herbs and stuff like that, but I mean, somebody else is going to come in and get this garden now and continue just cultivating and growing and enjoying this space. But that means that for us, we are done here. So today I did want to share with you guys, what this garden has meant for me, what our next steps are, and just look back at some of the stuff that we've gone through, some of the lessons learned from this garden. I am so grateful to you guys and to this garden for everything that I have learned as a gardener. I have been gardening for over 15 years now, and I have learned so much from this gardening space. From creating our trellises for our raised beds. These specific trellises for our raised beds we created the design for, and we built every single one of these raised beds. Everything was just a clean grass garden space before we got here, and so we have really implemented all of the systems in place. We have grown all of our own food from this garden, all of our vegetables, which is one of my main goals when I set up this space. I wanted it to be big enough so that we can really grow all of our own vegetables, all of our own herbs in this space every season, and we accomplished that. Another thing that was really important for me in this garden was to grow all organically, and even though it's been hard sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, there have been significant challenges when growing organically without any pesticides and things of that nature. It has really been a great experience. So if you don't grow organically right now, I would definitely encourage you. It's really interesting to see the way nature takes its course, and the way that you really can do a lot of pest control without having to use chemicals and things that aren't naturally found. So I use a lot of diatomaceous earth, I use some neem oil, I use some BT, but this season specifically in the garden, I have really taken a step back and allowed some of the predatorial insects to come in and kind of balance out the system, which has worked really well. So one of the things that I found specifically was that the pests that come in and eat the kale and the tomatoes, even though I did sacrifice a lot of my plants this season to those pests, they have really attracted a lot of predatorial insects, and then after having those predatorial insects in the garden for a while, it has really balanced itself out, which is a great permaculture technique, and it's something that I wouldn't have otherwise learned if it wasn't for having this garden space and allowing this to really run its course. Another thing that I've really learned on a larger scale, and I've always done this in other gardens I've had, but I've never done it on such a large scale, was to propagate herbs and to propagate plants. I've always propagated my own herbs, and in fact, these two rosemary bushes behind me, if you can see them, this one here and that one over there, they actually came from cuttings from my garden back when I lived by myself in South Florida before I met Alan, and I took cuttings from all my plants and I propagated them out. Some of them didn't make it, but these two rosemary bushes, they started off as tiny little cuttings like that and have grown to giant bushes since we built this garden. But in the meantime, while we've had this garden, I have since taken, I think, maybe like 100 cuttings from each of these rosemary plants to sell and to give away to friends, and then just to use in the kitchen and in the chicken coop and things like that. But I mean, we have really done a lot of propagating and a lot of creating our own plants this season, and I think that was one of the biggest time investments, just by trial and error and just by patience, I guess you would say, propagating and allowing our garden to flourish that way instead of having to put that much money back into it. Alright, so what is left for us here? Basically, we are going to do some garden cleanup. I am going to go through and trellis everything. I want it to be nice and neat for the new owners to come through. I really have not spent a lot of time talking to them about the garden, but they are inheriting all of this. They're inheriting all the food that is currently growing. We do have several crops and several plants still producing. We have tons of okra and tons of red peppers as well. So I really want to make sure that it goes to them in the best condition possible. Now, in addition to the garden cleanup, I am going to go through and be a little bit selfish. I'm going to go and take everything that I want from the garden. Anything that, you know, I want to put in my new garden. I have taken tomato cuttings. I've also gone through and taken basically the majority of the parsley that was growing there. Now, of course, I have not uprooted the entire plants. I did take a few of them and kind of rip them out and repot them to take with us, but I have taken all the parsley and made herb bombs with it, frozen them in olive oil. That way I don't have to wait another, you know, 30 days or whatever it is for the parsley to grow in our new space before I can use the fresh parsley in the kitchen. I'm going to do the same thing and take cuttings from my basil, from my rosemary, things like that. But I mean, for the most part, we're taking those things with us. Now, I have also been in the process of seed saving anything that I can save from the garden, things, you know, like beans when they dry out on the vine, that I miss one or two of the beans. Specifically, I've taken a lot of my Marvel of Venice pole beans from the garden, and I have just seed saved as much as possible, my little beans here, so that I can go ahead and replant in the next garden. And I have some yellow squash, some zucchini, things like that. I just saved them in these tiny little, you know, cardboard looking paper things. And then I also have some chili peppers, actually they're cayenne peppers, that I have let dry on the countertop, so I will be using these as powder, or maybe saving some of the seeds from them. I really haven't decided yet what I'm doing with them. But as far as, you know, saving and preserving things from the garden, I have a whole bunch of beans in the freezer. I have some okra in the freezer, just as much as I can preserve and save while we are setting up our next garden. We've gone ahead and seed saved and preserved as much as we could. Now, our next steps moving forward are to create mini urban farm on our piece of land. The whole reason that we went ahead and sold the house is because we are hoping to build our dream house, and we're in the process of getting the architectural plans drawn up for our dream house on our own lot. So we have an acre and I think an acre 0.7 roughly of vacant property, which is home to all of our chicken and our chicken coop right now, and we will be taking mini urban farm and building from scratch over there, which includes a food forest. It also includes my garden, because of course I can't live without my garden. I would like to make it a tiny bit bigger, but still using these same urban gardening principles, because we are not moving to a rural environment. We are staying in the city. It is still about 5 minutes from here, 5 minutes from all of our favorite restaurants, and it is a piece of land, but with all the benefits of living in the suburbs as well. In addition to the garden, we will have our animals, which means adding things other than chickens. We are going to be adding some quail and some turkey and some other livestock moving forward. We are going to be expanding our chicken flock as well and hatching out some baby chicks. In the process of doing that right now, actually, we have an incubator going in the kitchen, and then tying it all together by building our dream house, of course. So I am really excited to share with you guys everything that we are doing to create our homestead, still an urban homestead on our vacant property. You know, that has been a dream of mine. It has been a dream of Alan's for quite some time now, and I didn't think we'd be doing this as soon as we are. When we bought the property, we definitely planned for 4 to 5 years down the road, but we have been really fortunate enough to profit from the sale of the house, and we are going to start ahead of time. So hopefully you guys will join us on that journey. I am really excited to share with you guys. And as sad as it is to leave this gardening space that we have poured our hearts and souls into, as well as sweat and tears and even some blood, I am really excited for the next steps for Mini Urban Farm, and I hope you guys join us in our journey. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.